What's up, y'all? We're back for part two, and let's get back to work. So, chapter 8 is talking about community and loving communion. So it talks about the importance of community and emphasis on being in fellowship with one another. And this quote that she starts every chapter with a quote, but I think of all the quotes, I liked this one. This one stuck out to me a lot. Let me get to it real quick. Oh dang, it's still all the way back to chapter 7, but it was this quote by Parker Palmer. It says, "Community cannot take roots in a divided life. Long before community assumes external shape and form, it must be present as a seed in the undivided self. Only as we are in communion with ourselves can we find community with others." So it's important to, even if you don't have a unified society, it's important to have community somewhere. Community affirms us. It gives us a sense of belonging, a sense of acceptance, and gives us the drive to be the person that we always wanted to be. And I think that's literally the essence of what makes love so beautiful. And I'm glad Hooks put that stressed that point out. And then she talked about societal definitions of the nuclear family and what family values are. So she talks about, if y'all know, the nuclear family is usually a heterosexual couple, a mom and dad, someone is the breadwinner of the house, and someone mostly takes care of the children. And it can go both ways. It can be a woman that's breadwinner and a man that's taking care of the children. I know there's stay-at-home dads, but majority of the time it's the man that's the breadwinner, and the women takes care of the children, fix the house up and stuff like that. I got back on chapter 8 finally. But she says that, think about that model. A lot of politicians, they grew out of that model, and they use their politics, they funnel their politics and their policies and their ideologies by that narrative that everyone is in that position and everyone should be in that position. And that gives opportunity to be classist, say that poor black women are welfare queens and stuff like that. Crack babies and those stereotypes that America puts on this upward mobility, that for some reason we're all in the same position. Some people don't know their parents, and that's unfortunate. Some people are in adopted orphans, foster homes, probably the foster home, and we don't think about pretty much a person that goes through things because they don't have that family structure. And even if you're in that nuclear family model, that you're in a nuclear family, you're not always get the nourishment. Sometimes you're not always humanized or valued in that paradigm. And she talks about how community is important when it comes to extended families and friendships, and how when we go into romance, how romanticism can distract us from genuine love and stratify investments in our relationships. So some people put all their investments in their relationship, and they don't even think about the friends, the family members, the people that might be going through things that could use some communal help. And we have to let go of this idea of a compulsory monogamous relationship where we own each other. We don't own each other. We're fully fledged human beings, and we should have I should have some power and you should have some power. It doesn't have to be against each other, but it can be mutual and it can mesh well together. And I think that's like the dynamics of a relationship that everyone should go through when they're dating or something, if they want to be in a monogamous relationship, whether that's marriage, and that's another commitment that should be taken seriously. And she talked about how I know a lot of women that are going to watch this that were drilled to this narrative that they should be suffering to be loved. So, for example, say your husband cheated on you, and for some reason that made him realize in that cheating disrespected your relationship. You have a right to feel hurt. You have a boundary was violated, and you're in a monogamous relationship. You were not thought of. You're not considered. Your relationship was violated because of what your husband did. And a lot of and it's this narrative that if the wife stays, she's a good one, she's a keeper, you're worthy and stuff like that, when no, it tells how much of a douche and stupid the husband is. And there should be some accountability measures that are set in place. It can be whatever accountability looks like to you. It could be divorce, it could be therapy, it could be anything to put both people in a healthy and functional position, and it'll be to their benefit. And she also talked about the importance of forgiveness and how forgiveness, it should give opportunities to love and stuff like that. So if you're always going to be thinking about your husband cheating on you, you're going to block yourself of opportunities for better love and stuff like that. And I found that's important. And I think forgiveness, it doesn't have to be for the person that harmed you, but I think it should be mostly forgiveness for yourself. It should be a healing process for yourself, and it should be centering your healing. And I think that's what Hooks was trying, pretty much implying. And I don't think it has to be just because you hurt me doesn't mean I should instantly forgive you. Like, we should be talking through this. We should be saying, how should we move forward from this harm that you caused? Are we going to heal? Do we think it's better to part ways? Do we think it's better if you're in isolation and stuff like that? So take that for example. And she talked about how it can be a prison if we're in solitude. So I think we should differentiate loneliness and solitude. I was in a conversation with the Center for Student Diversity in Towson, and we were talking about, is loneliness and solitude the same thing? And I think you can be in a function with a lot of people and you can be lonely. Loneliness isn't just something that's physical. It can be mentally, because it's literally just you trying to conceptualize an event that occurred to you, a mental health issue, whether it's depression, it can be dissatisfaction with something that didn't go right the way you wanted. And you have to realize that not everything is gonna go your way, and you have to accept things for who they are, and that it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't hurt you. It shouldn't create trauma and stress for more. And I think once you expose yourself and open yourself and allow yourself and make yourself willing to love and be loved, you won't get loneliness. And it can be hard. It's not always easy. So and it can be through therapy or something like that. It can be conversations with friendships, taking a mental health day, doing some self-love and some self-preservation work, get your hair done, do makeup, watch your favorite movie, go hiking, biking, do something that'll make you feel good. And I think that's important because that's an aspect of love, because when you allow yourself to love, you're willing to love others. And she also talked about how important service can be. So service is an aspect of communal love. And she compared this to how women in service industries, the sacrifices that they make, and how that's community when with their profession. So I'm thinking about I think it was a day without a woman, and where women were protesting misogyny for I think it was Women's History Month or something. But when a day without a woman happened in jobs and workspaces, and where I'm from, Prince George's County's public schools closed because there were so many women that were teachers, so many women that were administrators. Like, women were running the education system. Black women were running the education system in Prince George's County public schools. So because of their gratitude and their service, we were able to function in community. So without them, children wouldn't have been educated efficiently and stuff like that. So I think it's important to note that. And she said how we also should give acts of kindness. So just be kind to a person just because they're a human, they're living, they're breathing, they're doing something to the benefit of your growth. And it protests estrangement and stuff like that. So say, for example, you're a queer person, and having someone that shows love to you and accepts you, that prohibits you from going to a place of despair and estrangement. So you won't run away. You will feel valued. You will feel seen, at least to the benefit of your growth, and that makes love a success. And then chapter 9. So chapter 9 talks about mutuality and the heart of love. And she talked about a lot of mostly romantic relationships at this point. She talks about how she was navigating through her partnerships, because she had 2 long-term relationships, and in all of those relationships, both of them required a lot of emotional work for her at her point. Like we thinking about relation and gender dynamics, sometimes women were just the caregivers, not even just the children, but to the husband as well, but like cook you dinner and stuff like that, clean the house, and maternal gender roles and stuff like that. And Belle didn't get that reciprocity from the relationships. And she talks about how she learns from her relationship from her dad. She was missing a lot of love, and she was expecting to get that love from the men that she's been with. So you can talk about daddy issues and stuff like that, and how there's this idea of unconditional love that women have to give, even though they're not loved back. And it shouldn't go that way. It should be mutual and reciprocal energy. And some days you're gonna have to give more energy than your partner, and sometimes your partner is gonna have to give more energy than you. And I think, and love can be unexpected, so you don't know when there comes a time when both of y'all will have to go apart, and you're gonna have to realize you need even more communication and transparency within your relationship. You're gonna have to do some soul searching of how this relationship is benefiting you and benefiting the other person, because it should be mutual and reciprocal. And she also talked about how women are socialized to be selfless, and they're not given the opportunity to love themselves because of patriarchy. And she talked about how because of the socialization that she was given, she was able to give some understanding of love because of what women are expected to do. And she said, listening does not simply mean we hear other voices when they speak, but we hear other voices when they speak, but that we also learn to listen to the voice of our own hearts as well as inner voices. So we can't read each other's minds. For example, listening goes into why things are the way they are and how this person navigated throughout that situation. So it's more of a restoration when you listen to each other and why things are the way they are. And she thinks there should be an emphasis on commitment rather than bonds. And if there's no commitment, the bond is not worth saving for. Like, I know a lot of people, there's a lot of couples that aren't, they're not getting a divorce just for the sake of the children. And they don't realize that maybe if they stayed married, it would do more harm for the children's well-being. And there should be a commitment of healing and love and investments of love that will actually make us understand love and being loved. And she talked about how love is no utopia. You have to handle conflicts. Conflicts aren't guaranteed. Love without conflict isn't love. But there should be some tools in place to make the relationship better and actually make love worthwhile. And she talks about the importance of giving and generosity so we can give attention to people. So for churches, for example, I know churches tie to help the communities and help people that are in unfortunate positions. They couldn't get housing and stuff like that. And we don't even realize when we give how much that save that person's life. That you can be $1 short of your life, and that can. And if it wasn't for tithing, you wouldn't have been in a drastic situation. You could have been foreclosed, or something like that. And she said, a generous heart is open for love and healing. So if you're not open for love and you're not open for healing, you don't want love, and you're not making life more meaningful for your benefit. And being open for love and healing gives you a path forward to navigate life and make your humanity worthwhile at the end. And I think that's very sweet. So so chapter 10, she talks about romance, sweet love. So this one, she talks about more of societal ideals of love. And she said, true love doesn't have the power to redeem, but only if we are ready for redemption. So you have to challenge whether you think this is love. So because she also talked about the difference between passion and love. So passion is when you have all these ideas in your head and you think, are they worth it or if they're not? And that can influence your relationships, because you will realize that something that's within that passion is not love. And she talks about how falling in love can be an opportunity for mystery. Excuse me, y'all.
Call from Clinton.
Sorry. But she said falling in love gives an opportunity for mystery, for discovery and self-discovery. You learn when you fall in love, you learn about your partner or partners and yourself. And that even goes for all platonic relationships, I would say. I wouldn't say falling in love is simply a romantic thing, but it's literally an investment in intimacy and stuff like that. And I don't think it has to be romantic per se. But she said how when we do these mystery, there's these clues, signs, and findings that we go through when we're in that mystery to help fulfill our needs and desires for ourselves and our partners. And this one, she talked about sexuality again. She was talking about how erotic attraction and connection and how that's important. And sexual liberation, sexual politics, and gender come into it. And I think it's important to understand sex, because some people's idea of sex is something that's done to a woman, and that gives room for sexual violence and stuff like that. Like, it's only what the man seems pleasurable, when it should be mutual, and it should be relaxing, it should be fun, it should be consensual, and it should be an intimate moment between the partners that are indulging in a sexual act. And she said, and Hook said, that's sometimes what she gets sometimes, but I learned this in sexuality class. Like, a lot of heterosexual women, they said they don't get orgasms. Sometimes they had to fake it and stuff like that. But it shows how we don't see something as intimate as that, something that should be mutual, and it should be fun for both parties, and it shouldn't be just to it shouldn't be a dominant and submissive power dynamic. It should be connection, and it should be leveled and balanced. And I like this reframing that she does, that she said. So she said, instead of saying, I think I'm in love, say, I've connected with someone in a way that makes me think I'm on the way to love. And I think that gives more room and opportunity to understand love, because you're understanding that you may not know love. This person might show me love, and eventually I'll know when it's not love. And I think that gives room for that, and it's realistic. And she also said, instead of saying I am in love, say I am loving and I will love. So, because there might be moments where you're not going to be in that constant state of loving, but you know when to love and how to love. And once you learn that what love is. And it's this paragraph that she said on 179, which I really like. I'm almost there on 179. It was the first paragraph. Yeah, it's the first paragraph. She said, we can only move from perfect passion to perfect love when the illusions pass and we are able to use the energy and intensity generated by intense, overwhelming, erotic bonding to heighten self-discovery. And she said, passion is not a bad thing. It's important to have some standards and expectations, but you have to realize sometimes those standards and expectations aren't going to be fulfilled 100% of the time and stuff like that. And she also said, perfect passions usually end when we awaken from our enchantment and find only that we have been carried away from ourselves. It becomes perfect love when our passion gives us the courage to face reality, to embrace our true selves, Acknowledging this meaningful link between perfect passion and perfect love from the onset of a relationship can be the necessary inspiration that empowers us to choose love. When we love by intention and will, by showing care, respect, knowledge, and responsibility, our love satisfies. Individuals who want to believe that there is no fulfillment in love, that true love does not exist, cling to these assumptions because this despair is actually easier to face than the reality that love is a real fact of life but is absent from their lives. So it's easy to hate, it's easy to be in a moment of despair. It's hard to love, which is a given, but love is going to help you and it's going to be more fulfilling to you. And then she talks about how true love is more of a soul connection than a heart connection. And she differentiated the difference between them. And I think a heart connection is more passion focused and the soul connection is more loving. And there's mutual recognition within it. And she said, true love is unconditional, but to truly flourish, it requires an ongoing commitment to constructive struggle and change. So if our ideas, our love don't match, see if we can make a compromise. And if there's no compromise, then we don't love each other. So that's basically the point that she tries to instill. And then chapter 11, which is another good chapter, it's titled Loss, Loving into Life and Death. And this one talks more about grief and when love and love after life. So when you die, how we think about a person's legacy and how they interacted with community and how important they are and value their life. And we sometimes that's through homegoing service in which we celebrate instead of mourning. And I think that's what's cool about the framing of celebration and homegoing, because it gives an idea that the person is in peace, and celebration gives us an opportunity to appreciate that how that person showed love. And how we can practice that through generations to come. And I think that's a goal that anyone wants to achieve when they reach their ending point in life. And she talked about the sensationalization again of death. She talks about violence and killing and how that can be sensationalized versus love of life and obsession of safety and fear. Because she talked about when she had a cancer scare, I think it was breast cancer, and how that made and how when Bell Hooks had cancer, it made her appreciate life a little more, because she don't know when her last day on earth will be. Grateful she's still living today, but it made her really give appreciation and love for life, and appreciate the community that she's been in with, and the family that she got to love. And we should stop fearing death. We should know that death is a given. It can be scary, not gonna lie, but we shouldn't let us prohibit us from our daily activities and stuff like that. We shouldn't have to fear the celebration and homegoing that we possibly will get. And I think that's very good. And she said to be loving is to be open to grieve. So you should allow yourself to grieve. You should allow yourself to take in a moment when you lost a loved one, and you should try to set some ground. This should be opportunity to set some groundwork into how you're going to practice the love that you got from this person and how you're going to love in the future. So, and continue that legacy that person left that was filled with love. And she talked about when people sometimes throughout life you have regrets, and you should be present with life. You shouldn't have to think about the future all the time. You should just focus entirely on the present. Like for me, I'm not thinking about children anytime soon, but I'm trying to thinking about what do I like in life since I graduated, and since I graduated from Towson, what can I use with my degree to actually benefit me or something like that. So that should be my focus. But other people that got to a good place, they can think about where do they want children, whether they want to get married, when they get a house, when they want to advance in a career goal field. And sometimes we shouldn't be ashamed of our regrets. Me, I do have regrets sometimes. Like, I do regret things that I've done, but I should think about how I wasn't given the infrastructure. I didn't have the words. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the resources to like fully understand what I'm going through in life. And I shouldn't be ashamed that I have those regrets. Like, life is what you make it, and you shouldn't be in a state of shame all the time. It's literally gonna kill you inside. And she also said that we should accept changes and transitions. We should accept that things aren't going to happen the way we want them to happen. And sometimes these changes and transitions, we may not even realize they're helping us instead of interfering with our goals. They might actually help us achieve further in what do we want in life. And chapter 12, titled Healing and Redemptive Love, it talks about how we shouldn't forget the past and we should view it in a new way. We should use the past as like a teacher, and we should learn from our past and how if we have good moments in our past, how do we continue those good moments? And if there are bad moments in our past, how do we make them good, and how we can heal from those pasts. And she talks about how her past and her family, it makes her understand what is needed for a functional family. And a functional family should have autonomy and dependency among each other. And that helps put an emphasis on community and how that makes life more meaningful. And she talks about the effect of harm doing and how there should be an individual power. So say a person lied to you, you felt betrayed and stuff like that, and you and that person, in order to get through a place of healing, you should confront those problems. You should confront why that person felt the need to lie and betray you, and what can be done to repair those wounds. And then she talks about how we should be vulnerable with ourselves. Vulnerability gives an opportunity for healing, and vulnerability shouldn't be seen as weak. It should be seen as an opportunity to gain even more strength. And I think that's very powerful. And then she talked about service to ourselves and others, how giving back makes us appreciative of life and community, how that makes us when you appreciate someone, it allows us to appreciate ourselves and what we can give, gives us more productivity. And she talks about how even through spaces of when there is need for healing, it should stress that there needs to be a transformation and infrastructure in place so future harms won't exist. So say a person stole like a bottle of milk or a gallon of milk or something. it could be an economic reason why they felt the need to steal milk or something like that. And if we have a system that gives people more access and more sustainability, they don't have to steal milk. That should be the articulation, instead of punishing that person for stealing milk, for example. And she also stresses the fact that we should prohibit cynicism and fear. We shouldn't block ourselves from love, because love is so beautiful. Like it gives us more reasons to live. And in this quote, we cannot know love if we remain unable to surrender our attachment to power. So we shouldn't always think about what we can do. We should think about our source, what can lead us to healing, and sometimes the power that we can do, what choices we can make. Some of those choices don't lead us to healing. And if any feeling of vulnerability strikes terror in our hearts, lovelessness torments. So it doesn't make love prevail if that continues. And then the final chapter, y'all, chapter 13, titled Destiny, When Angels Speak of Love. And then she started talking about the imagery of angels, how angels tend to have this portrayal of being innocent. They can be a mode of enlightenment, and they can be childlike, being with your inner child, because when you're young, you're always in a state of learning. And even when you grow old, it contributes to your growth and development and your spiritual growth, which goes into what Bell Hooks defines love. And in this quote, she said, love does not lead to an end for difficulties. It provides us with the means to cope with our difficulties in ways that enhance our growth. So make sure we learn from the difficulties and the hardships that you're always going to see in love, whether that's miscommunication, whether that's unwillingness to be transparent to a person. And sometimes you have to respect that, and which is a pillar of love. And then she talked about the ridding of shame from woundedness. So don't be have ownership and power back from the dominance of power that was inflicted upon you. So make sure you have no shame and the hurt that you cause. You have to confront your demons. Sometimes you have to confront the hurt that was caused to you, whether that's through any resource or tool that will get you a place of function and healing. And then she talked about how reconciliation can rid us from alienation and estrangement. So say you have a resentment towards your parents because of how they treated you as a child. Able to move forward in a healthy thing. And if you want to continue have a relationship with your parents, both of y'all had to confront the hurt that was done when you were a child or something like that. And isn't whatever the tool is, it may not be an end all be all, but I think is the effort that counts. You want love to win, and I think that within itself is love. And the last thing, she talks about how the discovery and mystery of love is anywhere you can go and you won't even know. It can be from a stranger or something like that. Love will be available, and it gives opportunity. So you have to allow yourself to see if love exists. And that's it for all about love. And thank y'all for continuing listening to me on this. So I'm looking forward to what the next book will I will go through soon. And make sure y'all follow my reading list on Instagram at Raisin Souls, and follow my personal Instagram at Intellectual Alberts. And if y'all have any recommendations for me to read, put them in the comments. Make sure it's reading that'll actually critically think, not no hotep mess or anything like that. But thank y'all for seeing what I'm trying to do with this, and I hope y'all gain something out of it. I hope y'all get the chance to read this, because I'm kind of becoming a more refined person after reading it, because I always know people have these misconstrued conceptions of what is love, and sometimes we don't know what it is. And I'm glad the fact that it's important to give like a definition of things that it'll make sense, so we can navigate life easier. And I'm glad I got through that through Bell Hooks All About Love. So take care. Love y'all. I hope everyone will have a nice day, and stay safe. Bye.